Oh, a history professor at the University of Limpopo, Chitja Twala, joins us now for more on that. Prof, good to have you, and thank you very much for your time. How does this special project enhance, if you like, the history of liberation struggle in South Africa?
Thank you very much, and thanks for having me on your program. This project is long overdue, but we are ecstatic that at long last it has started and kick-started. And in terms of liberation struggle, it is important that we understand our struggle history. And it is also important that we research and then we document these kinds of stories, because a lot has happened in the past 30 years and before then. And when these heroes and heroines left the country for the struggle for liberation of the country. Therefore, it is incumbent upon us as South Africans to document and to try by all means to popularize their struggle history, which is important for us and which is also important for the upcoming generation.
Yeah, indeed. We've got now 49, if you like, biographies that would need to be added to a list of many others. That captures, of course, histories of organizations. It captures some important reading material. I suppose that would give context to some of the debates that go on in the country around who participated, who was at the helm of the liberation at the time.
Yes, I think it is important that also family members should come on board and assist researchers and scholars of history in terms of compiling this kind of history and documenting these stories. We have had in the past the South African Education Democracy Trust and the Hashim Bita project, which tried to consolidate and document the stories of liberation from Southern Africa. But South Africa is a huge country, and the contribution to the struggle cannot be left to individual historians around the country, or cannot be left to only few scholars around the country. We need to work hand in glove with other people, including family members, in order to document this history. Yes, you are correct that the 49 biographies should be written, but we need also to get the people who were with those people to tell their stories. And that narrative is important for our country in order for us also to escape the temptation of exaggeration when we are documenting these stories. Therefore, the people who were there, the people who were closer to those people who are now exhumed should also tell the stories. We must not also forget that we need to build up archives, liberation archives around the country. I would urge institutions of higher learning around the country, even ours closer home, also to do the same, and also abroad. And it is also sometimes amazing that when you go abroad and then you go to their libraries, you get more material on South African liberation than what you get inside the country. Therefore, we need to do things differently. But I'm happy that the government is also embracing that kind of a project of documenting our history from all liberation struggles in order for us not to romanticize and think that the struggle for liberation was waged by a certain political party, but we need to embrace and also talk about other political parties in terms of liberation struggle of this country.
How does this assist in the process? As others are saying, at the core of this, of course, is the implementation of a recommendation coming out of the TRC process. Over 2,500 hearings would have been conducted, allowing individuals who seek amnesty to come and be listened to. Some 21,000 victims implicated here. But how does this particular process, I suppose, add to the process of reconciliation?
Perhaps this is the beginning, and it is good that we start from the beginning. We listened to the TRC, and then we followed the TRC proceedings, and some family members were lamenting on the TRC about their loved ones who are not yet back home. But this is the beginning of the process. And it does not only start now with the 49. I recall that some few years ago, I remember Moses Kotane was brought back to the country. J.B. Max was brought back to the country. But the question is, it should not be a once-off kind of an activity, but it should be a continuous activity. And the more we bring them home, the better. And this will give closure to the family members who also testified through the TRC about their loved ones who are still languishing in exile. And some of them, they can't be accounted for. Therefore, it is a humongous kind of a project that is going to be undertaken by the government. But this is commendable. It is a step in the right direction.
Yeah. From an academic yourself, I suppose this has also got some educational value, and maybe within our curriculum, there's something that needs to be born out of this situation.
Definitely. You know, if you go abroad and then you go to conferences, people don't want to hear about their own history. You can't go to Germany and go to Russia in Moscow and tell them about their Russian history. What they would want to know, it is your own history and how you unpack your history. And that is incumbent upon us. And that is why it is important that when we re-evaluate or recalculate, we need also to bring on board the very same stories. And some of the people are still alive, and some of the people who lived with the 49 are still alive. They can come and be living testimonies and telling us about these stories. And then that is how we build our history, and that is how we build our country. Because history, by its own nature, it is an emotive kind of a discipline. Therefore, if we bring together people, and then we can heal the wounds of the past. But if we don't do that, or if we put a wallpaper on the facts which are historical in nature, or romanticize such facts, then we are heading for a big problem and a big disaster in South Africa. I would urge that from school level, we engage on history, and then I urge at university level, we understand where we come from in order also to deal with the ills that are encompassing our own society and communities at this point in time.
Government speaking from a national benefit, certainly we can speak about that, but of course at the heart of this are families. So there is a great deal of individual and family benefit. But you mentioned earlier on the benefit that would come out of the liberation heritage asset that this brings, which I suppose in its sense also speaks of a community benefit. For example, we've got a lot of heritage sites that reside in Sharpeville and Soweto that bring a benefit for the communities themselves.
Yes. You know, one important aspect that we turn a blind eye on is the relevance and the significance of oral histories, and which also closes the gap between what is written and what is unwritten. And we need also to tap into our histories, local histories, what we call in historical terms, history from below, that we get stories from the people around our communities to tell their stories. And that in itself will help a lot. Yes, we do believe that we've got heritage sites, but unfortunately, how many of such sites are protected, and how many of such sites do have history that is known by the communities? And if we don't document that, and if we don't popularize that kind of history, if we don't memorialize that kind of history, that history is going to go away, unlike in other countries, whereby a grade 1 would know the president of the country, a grade 1 would know the importance of a site next to his or her house. And in South Africa, we can say a little is known about also open sites, and also churches, for example, which played a leading role in the liberation. You take Regina Mundi, the Catholic churches in Welkom and in Bloemfontein, and then those are the sites of liberation. And if we don't protect those sites of liberation, therefore our history is out of the window at this point in time.
Well, Prof,
Especially liberation
it's
history.
not automatic, though. I mean, there are certain things like local authorities, provincial authorities that they would need to do. And I know these are contested issues, for example, the renaming of streets, the erection of monuments, and so on and so forth. These are some of the things that even in the context of a government of national unity are going to be highly contested.
Yes, fortunately, I served in a provincial structure in the Free State, and at some point as the chairperson of Heritage Free State. And I served also at the national level on the national structure of heritage. Yes, there are processes and there are acts that we need to follow in doing so. But the question is, do our communities know about those acts? Do our communities know about those sites, and how can those sites be protected? Because if they don't have that knowledge, then we are not going to be able to document and also to preserve and to protect those sites. But I want to believe that education is power. And then the more we do a rollout campaign about these sites at local level, at provincial level, at national level, at international level, that will help us a lot. Yeah. It is disheartening when you ask a learner or you ask a student about at what level is union building in terms of being a heritage site. A person does not know, but the person is a South African. And why do we want to remove statues? And why do we want to build other statues? And what value do they add? And those are the things that we should be interrogating as historians and other scholars of heritage and heritage practitioners at the level whereby we are also going to have a massive embracement of our African values. Because if we don't do that, our African values will go down the drain too.
How can, as you say, that scholars and institutions of higher learning like yourself assist in the continuation of these studies? What role can they play?
It is important that the institutions of higher learning should go to the people and not the people coming to the institutions of higher learning. The research that is produced should not gather dust in the libraries of these institutions to an extent that nobody is reading the findings of the researchers. Therefore, it is important that what we get from the communities, we should also bring back to the communities in as far as engaged scholarship is concerned. That is important from our side. Number two, we need also to bring the communities closer to the university in order for the communities to also have ownership of the universities, not the university to be seen as this particular white elephant, if it is there, and then with the professors who can't also even come down to the communities. What impact are we bringing to the communities? History is a school subject. Therefore, I see a correlation between history at the university and history at the school level. If there is no linkage between history at an institution of higher learning and history at a school level, therefore we've got a disjuncture, and that disjuncture is problematic for us. Therefore, we are available as institutions of higher learning, albeit being busy, but we are available to assist and also to contribute to this big pot of knowledge. And because generation of knowledge should also encompass our people on the grassroots level.
Prof. Twala, appreciate your time. Thanks so much for coming on Historian at the University of Limpopo. Professor Chitja Twala there on the history of the liberation struggle, of course, being enhanced today with the return of those 49 exhumed bodies that have now been brought back to South Africa and are going to be handed to their families on Friday by President Cyril Ramaphosa. These are heroes and heroines of the liberation struggle.